Hey, this is Charlie, doing another screencast. Don't have too much time before this assignment's due, so just going to go ahead and get started. So what we did was we used uh, Pixton. This is my first time using this medium. This is a comic strip making website, and I did my strip on developmental learning theory. So if we can take a look at it here, let's see, maybe I can make this bigger. Nope. Okay, so we'll just take a look at the first one. So it looks like there was an option to do two characters or three characters. I chose just two characters, and just to make it very simple, it's two characters in an office. The first character, she's talking about um, Piaget, who was the main focus of the articles we were reading this week. So what she says in the first box is, she says, Piaget's theory of cognitive development argues that a child constructs a mental model of the world. Okay, so she's starting out talking about Piaget and his cognitive development theories, which is our topic of discussion. She goes on a little bit more. Piaget disagreed with the modern idea of that time. Basically, the modern idea of the time was that children were just less intelligent adults. But it wasn't clear what processes led to them becoming, developing the thinking capacity that an adult has. There wasn't this understanding of the developmental phases involved. Let's go on. So Piaget thought of cognitive development as a process which occurs due to interaction with the environment. And he goes, okay. And he asks, what about genetic epistemology? And she says that's how Piaget described his work. And how about schemas? And then, we just switch back and forth the dialogue. Starts out she's explaining, then he explains schemas. Now he's messing around with the poses a little bit. Piaget defines schema as a cohesive, repeatable action sequence that possesses actions that are interconnected and governed by a core meaning. So a child may develop a schema once they get used to the ice cream truck coming around. They may hear the ice cream truck jingle, and then they develop they come back to the schema of knowledge that they have associated with the ice cream truck coming. We carry on, and he asks, would you like to hear an example of how schemas work? Then we go into a little bit about what schemas represent, the steps involved. So first we have what's called assimilation and accommodation, and lastly you have what's called equilibrium. Piaget viewed intellectual growth as a process of adaptation. The process occurs first through three steps, which we discussed earlier. So first we have assimilation, which is using the existing schema that we already have, and then our context, a child, to deal with a new object or situation. So he's using existing schema to understand things. A lot of times children are confused because they don't already have the schema in place to understand. They're constantly just taking in new information. Which takes us to our next panel. When existing schema does not work, the person uses what is called accommodation to change his or her thoughts to deal with the new information. And she says, when a child is fully able to process this new information, using their past schema's ability to assimilate and put together information to understand new information, this new state is called equilibrium. A key state of child development according to Piaget. So that's a state in which the old schema is able to handle the new information that's coming in. And then we go on, we talk about Piaget's 4 stages of development. Looks like he's getting tired, so he's like, how about you explain that one? And she goes, kind of seems like they're getting ready for a presentation. on this topic. There are four main stages of development. The first is the sensory motor stage, occurring from birth to age 2. This is where you're just feeling things and experiencing sensations that are giving us information about the world. That's our sensory motor stage, birth to 2 years old. Then we have the pre-operational stage from age 2 to 7. Let's see if we can get some information. Pre-operational stage. Just a brief. So children are able to think about things symbolically, rather than just this keys, or just literally just these keys. They think about what that might represent. That's the pre-operational stage. After that, we have what's called the concrete operational stage, lasting from 7 to 11 years old. Short bit on that. Has to do with logical operational thought. It's kind of like we were watching that movie, The Sandlot. That was kind of the 7 to 11 concrete operational stage, where they can devise logical plans to try to get the baseball out of the neighbor's backyard. They're developing these operational ways of thinking. So lastly, we have in our fourth stage of development the formal operational stage, which is essentially the phase from adolescence to where we are now in adulthood. And we do say, good to know. Have you heard of the term discovery learning? So we just go a little bit further into the keywords. Sounds familiar. What is it? Well, similar to what we discussed, discovery learning is the idea that children learn best through active exploration of the topic. So rather than just listening to how to do things, they learn best by actively doing things. She says, that reminds me of the zone of proximal development. Have you heard of it? I think I have. Do you mind explaining it? So the zone of proximal development we define as that's the distance between what a learner can do without help and what a learner can achieve with a little bit of assistance from adults. So there's kind of this gray area of what they can't quite do it, but with a little bit of help, they can do it. That's the zone that we were talking about. So so you mean if kids are playing a board game and an adult helps them perform? Yes, essentially. And then we talk about another associated term, scaffolding, which is to provide assistance to a learner in an area of a task they would not yet fully grasp. If they've never used a baseball mitt before, they might not understand how to catch a fly ball as it's coming down to you. But a coach, a baseball coach, can help that kid to grasp how to do something like that. So we go on a little further by working with a more knowledgeable other, another term we discuss. So this would be the adult in this case who has the experience. A learner can better grasp how to perform tasks that are new to them. So we talk a little bit more about what scaffolding is. So what is effective scaffolding? With two examples. One, gaining the learner's interest in a task, and two, making the task simple. So there's a few others, but those are just two examples for our purposes. And lastly, we asked, would you think of this as knowledge through social interaction? One of our last terms. So yes, that is one way to put it. It's learning best through collaborative interaction. And then we talk about our last two keywords here. Reciprocal teaching. This is where teachers and students, they use a 4-step process to collaborate in learning. Essentially, it's not just the teacher's just talking the whole time. There's a lot of back and forth where the teacher talks, makes a comment, asks the student talks for a while, then overall just a more collaborative process. And then our last concept, collaborative learning, which goes hand in hand with the reciprocal teaching. This is where this is a type of learning that suggests that learners have different abilities and should help out other members of the group in areas where they lack. Which kind of has to do with our idea of multiple intelligences, that some students, they might be good at illustrating, other students might be good at linguistic skills and better verbally, while the other has better concept of visuals or like where to space items on a presentation, for example. And yeah, that pretty much wraps up our keywords. The two adults in our comic strip looks like they're wrapping up the conversation here. They're both happy with the topic, and they both they give each other a thumbs up. And that completes our presentation on developmental learning theory. Thank you.